بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Riad Ouarzazi welcoming you to another episode of ROC Your Ramadan 2012, day 24. Today, inshallah ta'ala, I'd like to talk about the zakat, as it is one of the pillars of Islam, but also the other zakat that has to be paid out in Ramadan, which we call zakat al-fitr. Zakat al-fitr, brothers and sisters, is obligatory upon every Muslim who's self-supporting. If he has one sa' or more than he needs of food for himself and his family on the day and night of Eid. So it is obligatory on every Muslim who is self-supporting. If he has one sa' or more than he needs of food for himself and his family on the day and night of Eid. And I will explain what a sa' means. First of all, the basis of this is is narrated by Ibn Umar, and this is agreed upon as reported by Bukhari and others, that the Prophet ﷺ, Ibn Umar says that the Prophet enjoined zakat al-fitr, a sa' of dates or a sa' of barley upon all the Muslims, slave and free, male and female, young and old. And the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded that this zakat to be paid out before the people went out to pray, yani before the Eid Salah. After the Eid prayer, khalas, the zakat al-fitr, yani you could give it as zakat al-fitr, but it will not be counted as zakat. It will be counted as sadaqah. Also, Abi Sa'id al-Khudri, he narrates, as agreed upon, the hadith with regard to the Prophet ﷺ says that the zakat al-fitr, a sa' of food, or a sa' of dates, or a sa' of barley, or a sa' of raisins, or a sa' of dried yogurt. This is all some of the this is reported again and agreed upon, and in terms of what could come out in form of zakat al-fitr or the fitrah. What is meant by sa'? Sa', brothers and sisters, is 4 times the amount that may be held in the 2 hands of a man of an average build. Yani, I'm not going to bring somebody who's 8 feet tall or someone who is 3 feet tall. Yani, average build. Mashallah, there's some people who are like, they have these huge hands. Mashallah, like Abu Bakr or Khalid bin Walid, used to be huge, mashallah, and big. On average build. 4 times the amount that may be held in 2 hands. How much can you hold like this? 4 times of that. That's a sa'. 1 sa' of date, barley, raisins, or food, yani like rice. If a person does not pay zakat al-fitr, then definitely that person is sinning. That person is sinning. The other zakat, the zakat of the wealth, is different than the zakat of the fitrah. The zakat al-wealth, the zakat al-mal, is the zakat that is in fact one of the pillars of Islam. The pillars of Islam, as you know, is bearing witness that there is no one worthy of worship but Allah, and then you have the salah, and then you have the zakah. That zakat, it is not the fitrah, it is in fact the zakat of al-mal, zakat of the wealth, which some of scholars said could be paid out in Ramadan as well with the zakat of the fitrah. What is as long as it reaches or it meets 2 criteria. 2 criteria for you to pay the zakat of the wealth. Now we're moved from zakat al-fitra, as I understand. Like I explained, zakat al-fitra could come out. It has to come out before you pray yani Eid, and it could come out in form of food. Well, it is prescribed for it to come out in form of food. But if you give it, let's say, as monetary, let's say, funds, and you give it to your mosque, and you say, okay, I'm giving this money, but you guys need to buy food with it and distribute it amongst the poor and the needy. So you could make that, sort of, requirement. You say, I want my money to come out in form of food as a fitra. I don't want you to give it to them in form of clothing or la. I want the zakat al-fitra to come out in form of food. So you could give it as cash, and so that they can buy food for the poor and the needy before you pray Eid. Now we move to zakat al-mal. Zakat al-mal is a pillar of Islam, and it's got to meet two conditions. First condition, it's got to meet the nisab. Second condition is got to make one full lunar calendar. What is the nisab? The nisab, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, is 20 mithqal. 20 mithqal of gold. 20 mithqal of gold is 85 grams of gold, or 595 grams of silver. If you have an amount of money that is equivalent to 85 grams of gold or 595 grams of silver, then you have to pay 2.5% on that amount. But there's another criteria. The other criteria is that it has to make one full lunar calendar, yani one full year. If you have an amount that is equivalent to 85 grams of gold or 595 grams of silver, right, and then it has made one full year, one full lunar calendar, and from, let's say, last Ramadan to this Ramadan, then you have to pay out 2.5% on that amount. Let's say in Canada here, gold is, let's say, about 540 something per ounce, which is about $18 per gram. So $18 per gram, if we time, that times 85 grams, that will be about $1,500, and $1,500, right? So that $105,000 is the amount. If I have $1,500 in my account or more, right? So that's 85 grams of gold. If I have $1,500 in my account or more, which has made one full year lunar calendar, then I have to pay 2.5% on that as zakat, charity. It has to come out as charity to the poor and the needy. Understood? Can I, how about if I have 1,500, last Ramadan I had 1,500, and then it made one full lunar calendar, and then before the year completed, it went down to 1,000. Do I need to pay zakat? No, you don't have to pay zakat. Why? Well, because the 1,500 has to make one full lunar calendar, one full year. It did not meet, it did not make it. It went only about 9 months, and then before it completed the 12 months, I had less. How about if I have 1,500, and then it, last Ramadan, and then 6 months later it went up to 2,000, and then this Ramadan I have 2,000, let's say 2,000 in my account. I started with 1,500, now I have 2,000. What should I pay zakat on the 2,000 or the 1,500? You pay zakat on the 1,500. Why? Because 1,500 made one full year. 2,000, the 2,000 there, that 500 extra, it came, let's say, sometime around, half of the year. So it has not made one full lunar calendar. So you only have to pay zakat on the 1,500. But some of the scholars said that you may pay, 2.5% on the 2,000, so that you don't have to pay it again. So you can pay, zakat on the 2,000. Allahu a'lam. But in terms of what you have to pay is you have to pay for the amount that has made one full lunar calendar. But if it went below the threshold, yani below the nisab, then you don't have to pay you don't have to pay any zakat. Can I? Some people asked me, Sheikh, can I give my zakat al-mal to my parents? No, you cannot give zakat al-mal to your parents. You have to, your parents. You have to, if you can support them, you do support them, but you don't give zakat to your parents. It's not befitted to them. You have to support your parents, but don't give them the zakat, like sadaqah. Your brothers, same thing. Your brother, you could. Some said, you could help your brothers if they're in debt. Na'am, debt you have to pay because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. In fact, He says in Surah At-Tawbah about the categories. There are 8 categories of people that are eligible for zakat. إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل. 8 categories. Zakat expenditure are only for the poor and for the needy and for those employed to collect it. Yani people going around collecting zakat, you could give them zakat. And for bringing hearts together for Islam, and the newly comers to Islam, for bringing their hearts together, and for freeing captives, yani slaves, and for those who are in debt, and for the cause of Allah, and for the stranded, yani the traveler. These are all, these people, all these categories, 8 categories. The zakat is can be paid out to them. So these are the, again, with regard to zakat al-mal. I know there's could be, a lot of questions with regard to zakat. You could please go and ask your imam in the masjid, but I just tried to give you the main point or the main idea with regard to the difference, first of all, between zakat al-fitra and zakat al-mal, the zakat of your wealth, which has to be paid out for the wealth that you have, or even your gold. Like say, you have a gold or silver. If you have that gold or silver, if the silver that you have, in store, for instance, exceeds 595 grams, meets or exceeds 595 grams of silver, or if you have gold that meets or exceeds 85 grams of gold, then you have to pay zakat on that, be it wealth as money or gold and silver. How about if I have a property? Do I have to pay zakat on my property? Well, if that property you're renting it out, you pay zakat on the money that you get from the rent. You don't pay zakat on the property itself, but you pay zakat on the money that you earn from renting out that property. You have a rental car. Do I need to pay zakat on all the cars that I have? No, you pay zakat on the income that you get by renting those cars, provided that they meet the criteria, the threshold, which is 85 grams of gold or 1 full lunar calendar, 1 full year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make sure that we understand this fact, because again, Eid is in only about 7 or 8 days, and we need to pay out our zakat, as Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says. You need to zakat to purify yourselves, to purify your wealth. That's why we need to pay out this zakat. Purify yourselves, purify your wealth, and Allah Subhanahu wa Taala will reward you abundantly. Until another episode of ROC Your Ramadan 2012, I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.